Hello and good afternoon, everybody. It is your buddy Choppadong coming at you with another quick tip type video from DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things daily fantasy sports, MMA to PGA. We've got you covered. I am lead content editor and contributor here at DFSArmy.com. You can find the information down there in the comments section with a coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, to trigger 20% off normal pricing if you use that link to get in to DFS Army today and help start building better lineups. That's really our goal, is to teach you to become a better daily fantasy sports player no matter what sport it is you play. I'm focused on baseball right now. We'll do a little bit of other sports here and there, but baseball's where it is right now. Coming up on the 4th of July weekend, let's get rocking and rolling into a tip today that is brought to us by another member about cash versus GPP players and kind of how to identify them. So let's spend a few minutes walking through a couple of tools and let's see what we can't find. There's quite a few avenues that we can pursue. If you don't know me, at Choppadong out on Twitter, I love talking to you out there. Obviously, give me a follow and let's start interacting a little bit. I'll answer any questions that you have when I see them. But in our strategy section here, MLB strategy, you can go back about 3 or 4 pages and find some great articles, timeless articles. Cash versus GPP. I would recommend that you read this article if this topic interests you. Of course, if you like the video, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well and get notifications for these videos when they drop most days during the week. We're going to try and keep this one rather short, but I encourage you to skim through this article and start figuring out what type of player you are and how to start identifying a cash player versus a GPP player. I'm going to show you, however, in some of our tools, how we're going to do that. And it's actually, baseball is a fluky enough sport that there really isn't a cash safe player. Even Mike Trout is not necessarily a cash safe player. He's prone to grabbing a zero every single day he goes out there. It's the nature of the game. But some players are a little bit more cash safe than others. And some players are a little bit more GPP boom or bust oriented just by the nature of the way they hit the ball. So we can start searching for some of these ideas and start maybe formulating a list. To me, a cash player is typically somebody who's running fairly hot. So we're going to use small sample sizes and we're going to use the trends tab in the research station to discover that. But in an overall sense, we can discover pitchers and position players and everything by using this tool, this research station that is inside DFSArmy.com. So let's today go through some pitchers and go through some outfielders, and let's kind of try to figure out how we can determine which player might be cash safe and which player might be GPP only, okay? And ownership reports come out later in the day. Those are very, very helpful as well. I tend to hide within the chalk. If I see a player is going to be 30-40% owned versus a player that's going to be only 5% owned in a tournament, I'll take the 5% guy. In the cash games, I might lean towards a 30% guy because there's a little bit of insulation. There's a little safety in the numbers of him being highly owned. He himself can't necessarily burn me if everybody else has him. I can eliminate that player from a good game or a bad game, either one. And then I can focus on other players where we might differentiate a little bit with the rest of the crowd. That's how I typically play my cash games. But I'm really looking for safety. But I'm also, these days, the average DFS player is more intelligent than he was 5 or 6 years ago. So honestly, you're looking for both a high floor and high upside, not just floor only. You remember the old Karate Kid quote where Mr. Miyagi said to Daniel-san, if you walk the left side of the road, you're safe. If you walk the right side of the road, you're safe. But if you walk down the middle, sooner or later, just like grape. And that's a very poignant statement for daily fantasy sports. If you play cash games one way, you're probably okay. If you play GPPs the other way, you're probably okay. I walk down the middle of the road and I want floor and upside. Sooner or later, yes, I get squished like a grape, but I'm looking for a player that provides both because in my opinion, if you play just to the safety of cash games, you can't sustain your win rates. If you play just to the safety of GPPs, unless you hit that top prize, you can't sustain yourself. So you need to be kind of in the middle, and I teach a ladder strategy and a hybrid lineup. That's what I tend to do. However, I also learned that hybrid strategy by getting frustrated with playing too safe for cash games and wondering why I was finishing maybe in the top 40%, top 30% of lineups sometimes, But when I missed, most of the time I missed into the 60% or 70% range, which was missing my cash games. When I started taking some more chances, I started getting into the top 10%, top 5%, top 1% of lineups with more frequency, which also demolished cash games and help me determine that I have upside along with my floor. So I'm taking safer players, but I'm also taking players in a spot to succeed. And that revolutionized my game. That's what I try to teach people inside DFS Army, is how to change their thinking a little bit. If you play too safe, you're going to get crushed because you just won't win often enough in baseball, hockey, PGA, volatile sports like that. Different in some of the other sports. As we get ready to roll into NFL, we'll start talking more of that down the road too. But pitchers, how do we determine pitchers? We go to the starting pitchers tab, and we're going to sort by K-score, which is strikeout upside. And by looking at most of the strikeout pitchers on the slate today, we realize that it gives us margin for error. It actually gives us safety, because when I have 10, 12 strikeouts, I can give up 2, 3, 4 earned runs and still score 25, 30 points on just that difference alone. Give me the win, give me the quality start, and I've got upside to 40 some odd points. If I try to take a guy who just never gives up runs, or who is maybe in line for the win, and then something fluky happens and his bullpen blows it, boom, I lose those 6 points. Then, if he gives up 2 or 3 runs on some fluky error or some crazy thing that happens inside the game, then he all of a sudden gets 9 or 10 points taken away from him, and then he doesn't strike out enough batters to overcome that error. So to me, he's riskier. The higher strikeout guys are actually a little bit safer because they can bury the earned runs with more strikeouts. That's why I focus so heavily on that number. And I look at a Chris Sale. I look at a Steven Strasburg, Walker Buehler. I don't know the small sample guys. Smaller sample guys equal risky. We don't have a track record to depend on yet. We don't know what they are, who they are yet. But Walker Buehler, Canning, German, Clevenger, these are guys that we're going to watch. I can easily look at these guys and say, okay, now let's look for Vegas and let's see who has the support. Chris Sale, Strasburg, Buehler. Let's deal with these 3 guys here. They both have very, very high Vegas odds, suggesting they should be in line for the win today. They also have high strikeout numbers. So if I wanted to look at just those alone, I have already set myself up for decent pitching. Sale, Strasburg, Buehler. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll dive into the cash games or the game log side of things, and I want to see consistency. So I'm going to look at Chris Sale since he's on my list, and I'll look at price later. Generally, to find this type of safety, you're going to have to pay up for pitching. Maybe not all the way, but you're going to have to pay up towards the top. Now see, I see 30, 30, 50, 50, 70, good upside, 30, 30. So I've got a heavy floor of about 30 to 35 points. I can count on that out of Chris Sale most of the time. I've got upside to 60 and 70 points a few times. That's good. That's consistent with a high floor and a good ceiling. That makes for a very, very good cash game pitcher. If I look at Walker Buehler, I want to see the same thing. I don't want to see, now I'm going to save $1,000 by doing so, but I don't like that right there. 79, great upside, 40, 50, 60, there's a 20, there's an 8 down here. Okay, so I've got a lot of 40s, and that's great. You could argue a higher floor than Chris Sale, but Chris Sale never bombed with a 20 or an 8. Okay, so you could argue this is going to carry a little bit more risk than Chris Sale. Chris Sale may be a safer pitcher right now. You also might take into effect that start in Walker Buehler was in Coors, and Chris Sale isn't visiting Coors today. There's just all these little factors. You don't want to see this right here, that's for sure. So I see only 4 starts. I see shortened. This is not a cash game pitcher. Even though he's got great strikeout totals and he's got good ceiling numbers, he also doesn't have a very high floor. This is not a cash game pitcher at all. It's more of a GPP pitcher. So your cash game pitcher might be Sale or Buehler if you need the money. And you can scroll down and through here and you can find others. We mentioned German. So I look at him and I'm looking for consistency in this game log. Now see, I see a lot of 20s in there. And he's a little bit less expensive. So maybe you can live with that. I see upside to 50. That's okay for $8,100. I don't like that as much. It's not as safe raw points-wise as a Chris Sale or a Walker Buehler. You can scroll down a little bit more here. You're going to obviously find players that have short-term runs that are pretty decent. 20, 20, 50, there's a 15 little blip, 25, 37. So this is okay for this price. But if you look back at the beginning of the year, you had a lot of this type of stuff in there as well. So it's a little bit more up and down. You see the difference? And what I'm looking for when I'm talking about a cash game pitcher, I want to see as few blips on the radar as possible. With a GPP pitcher, I can handle the blips. I don't care. I only want his upside. I want him to provide tournament-winning upside, and I just hope to catch him on that night. Like I said before, we'll go into some outfielders here, and we'll look at those too, because taking pitching and taking bats is a little bit different, because bats are very fluky, with home runs being 18 points and no hits being 0. Big swings. No floor. But some players do have higher floors than others. We can find that in the Trends tab. Actually, we can find it in the Total Batter Matchup tab easy enough, because I can use the DFSA grade with outfielders only. I can use the DFSA grade to find who has the best historical matchup today. Looks like the LA Angels have a good matchup today with Trout and Ohtani up top. But if I come all the way down here, these are still good matchups over an 80. So knowing that I don't even have to scroll the page down because it's a deeper position, I can look for cheaper plays, right? Those are going to be cash important, because if I'm going to take an expensive pitcher like a Chris Sale, then I'm going to need some value to balance it out. I'm going to have to find that value somewhere. And we'll do one more overall tip here in a minute. But I'm looking for that consistency, and that consistency starts with the overall matchup and a larger sample size telling me this player is typically successful in a matchup like this. Then I can go in and let's grab Ohtani, Judge, who's also in a good matchup, Acuna, and let's look for maybe like a Calhoun. Why no Trout? Well, we know Mike Trout's consistent, right? I mean, we'll go ahead and we'll throw him in too. So we'll look at 5 outfielders. I can go into the research tab here, the trends tab, and I can search just outfielders, and I can look for who's hot. Because the more consistent a player is, the hotter he's been over the past few days, the more consistent he might be right now. So I'll throw in a couple of these too. Joey Gallo is typically not a cash player. He's a GPP player. He's very boom or bust. But if you can catch him when he's booming, you're in a very good situation. I wrote down Gurriel Jr. because he's been hot. I write down McNeil. Let's look at Soto and Jackie Bradley Jr. So we just pick a few of these guys out. Typically, and I'm even going to throw Castellanos in there, because I want to find a few boom or bust guys. These guys are all running hot right now. They should be typically fine, but the other guys have the larger long-term matchup. So when I go searching through these outfielders, I'm going to find Ohtani. Obviously, cash lineups, another tip for a cash type player is the tops of the lineups. I would take a hot hitter over a top of the order hitter if he's cold. I would take a bottom of the order hot hitter over a top of the order cold hitter. The reason why is because I know you get the extra at bats, and typically that's the name of the game, is opportunities. But I also want somebody who's producing. And if the top of the order guy isn't producing, I don't care where he's batting. It doesn't matter to me. 37-0. You want to see, look down here where he was cold. This is inconsistent. This is what you're going to find with every batter. But look here at how consistent this has been over the past 5 days. 4 of the 5 have been very rewarding. If I look at Aaron Judge, see how consistent he's been lately. Not a lot of zeros in there, right? A couple of 3s, but I really count double digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of about his last 10. 60% of the time he's getting me double digits. That's a fairly cash-safe player right now. If I scroll down here, where out of these 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out of maybe these last 10 or 11, that's 70% of the time he's not getting me double digits. This is not cash-safe. This is a GPP run because he'll give you a little bit here, but mostly it's nothing. Whereas up here, he's giving you a lot more consistency. He's more cash safe right now for baseball. Looking at Acuna. Look at how consistent that is. So far, would you rather have Ohtani, Judge, or Acuna in a cash game? You're going to want to make sure he's facing, a good pitching matchup for him, that he's not facing Max Scherzer or something, because that's going to factor in. But generally speaking, look at how consistent that's been. That is a cash safe player right now, for sure. If I go to Cole Calhoun, I'm glad we found him because that really sold my point. Look at that. That's not cash safe at all. I'd rather have, I know Acuna's $800 more, but I'd rather have Acuna pay up for that and then take some value price players somewhere else than pay $3,300 for a bunch of zeros. And let's check the ultimate Mike Trout, everybody's favorite, best hitter in baseball right now. Baseball's a fluky sport. That trash. He's not going good right now. He's Mike freaking Trout. He's not going good. You'd rather have Ronald Acuna. And at Ronald Acuna at a $500 discount. Now, can Trout go through his stretches? Of course he can. Look at that stretch of 5 or 6 games. He was cash safe there. Look at this stretch down here. It's all good. But he's not going good right now. Wait for him to turn around. How do you wait for him to turn around and become a cash safe type player? You use this trends tab in the research station and you follow this 14 and 7-day WOBA number. When the 7-day WOBA number starts coming back up, see like this 14-day number dropping off from a 460 to a 342, that's a sign the guy's cooling off. But if I scroll down here a little ways and see a 353 and JD Martinez heating up to a 654, actually, let's get off the track here a little bit and let's go look at JD Martinez. If I scroll down here, I see some inconsistencies, right? I just do see a 50-point game, but I see some inconsistencies. Scroll up here, a lot more inconsistencies. But look here, in the last 4 games, 3 of them have been fine. So if I'm looking at that last week or so, then what I'm seeing is a little bit of consistency maybe starting to show up. So I might start watching him. Now, I'd like to see personally more because, again, it's nothing like Ronald Acuna was. Let's go focus on some hotter hitters in Joey Gallo. Cash safe? Maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single-digit games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double-digit games with 20s and 30s and 40s. Now, I would take a 10, a 9 or a 10 on his quote-unquote bad days to have upside for the 25s, 30s, and 40s that he's putting out. That's floor plus upside to me. Is he a cash safe player? I'd like to see him in a vulnerable pitching matchup, facing a bad pitcher. If so, then maybe so. But he still gives me a little bit of hesitation just because I know how boom or bust he typically is. If I look at Gurriel Jr. in Toronto, who's been hot lately, this is a little bit safer. This is about the same as Gallo. 1, 2, 3, only 4 single digits, so that would be 6 double digits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double-digit games with upside to 40 and 50. Maybe a little bit safer floor than Joey Gallo right now. But again, you're going to want to evaluate his matchup to see that he is in a position to continue to succeed. McNeil, what leads the league in batting average right now, the National League? It's usually pretty consistent. But look, we've got some bigger games and some smaller games. A little up and down. I scroll back a ways, he's generally okay, but he's a little inconsistent. That's, even though he leads the league in batting average, might not be a cash safe player right now. Soto. Washington not play today? I guess not. So let's look for Bradley Jr. Cheaper player at 3,100. I can put up with a little bit less, and that's what I'm going to go find next is super punts for you. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, only 4. So 6 double-digit games and 4 single-digit games Only 1 0 for 3,100. Nice little cash safe, almost value type play. Castellanos in Detroit has popped on the radar the past couple of days with good matchups, but let's see how he's running. Is he being consistent enough for cash games? No. Be a GPP player. You're hoping to catch a home run out of him. No. Don't use a player like that in cash. Odds are you're trying to catch the ball. Now, you may catch a home run, and that's great, but over 10 or 15 games, he's not producing consistent enough numbers to be considered for cash games. Now, when I come back here to the research station, I will turn this number off, and I will try to find some super punts. Let's drop this down, and let's see if we can't, oh, darn it. I need to filter this out. Less than, say, $3,000. I need to sort this out by my L7 WOBA because that gives me the recency of 3 to 5 game sample sizes where hopefully these guys are running hot as heck. So Addison Russell was down the list. Austin Nola. Okay, we need to get rid of some of these plate appearances too because I want somebody who's going to start. Damn, why do I keep hitting the descending? Sorry, guys. Need to filter this one out to greater than, say, 15. Let's go ahead and actually make it 20. See if there's a couple of $2,000-ish players that are starting a lot. There's a few that are running hot. Vogt, Rivera, Maldonado. Start with Maldonado because I know that one. Six, 6, 3, 20, 30, 15, 6, 0, 6, 6. Now, you may look at this and say, well, that's not very cash safe because you're looking for double-digit numbers and not single-digit numbers. And you're right. When I'm paying for $3,500 and $4,500 players, absolutely. But when I'm paying for a super punt, like a $2,500 player on Fanduel, any non-zero will do. I might get lucky and run into some 20 or 30-point game, but 6s and 9s are fine because it's so cheap. That's still almost 4x value. 4x value in a $60,000 cap. What is our cap on FanDuel? 35,000, excuse me. But really quick, these are just little things that we do. $35,000. Well, divide by 100 because we want to get down to those points. So 350 times 4x. Damn, did it wrong. Well, I'm trying to do this on the fly. Per 1,000, sorry. Times 4 is 140 points. If I average 4x value across my lineup, I'm going to score about 140 points. Now, that's not going to win me a GPP, but 140 points is pretty much going to get me in the hunt in cash games. Head-to-heads, 50-50s, etc. That's what I'm trying to do. I would like to take some risk and get above that, so I will look for players with upside too, but I'm generally looking for this type of 4x number. And when I find it, typically in a $2,500 player, that's what, 10 points, and I'm getting close to it each time, and sometimes I go over it, then I'm looking pretty good. If I run into, who else were we looking for? Vogt? 2,200 play. That 4x is only 8 points there. 8 or 9 points is great. Can I get it? Well, I got 30, so that hurts. But down in here, maybe so. Who else am I looking for? Rivera, Ozuna, Brock Holt. I'm looking for guys batting a little higher in the order. Brock Holt, Carson Kelly, Chris Taylor. Let's look at those guys, and then we'll get out of here. I think you see the point I'm trying to make. We're looking for a consistent point getter here. Somebody who's not bringing me a lot of zeros at these cheap prices. Looking for around 10 points. 1, 2, 3, but he's not screwing me over with nothing. Who else did we say? Chris Taylor. Batting in the 6th hole. That's not a bad spot to be in the LA Dodgers lineup. There's your cat. There's a cash game punt. See the difference? Sometimes you're just going to go through searching for these guys. The best way to do this, and I'll just leave it at that, the best way to do this is to run over here into the research station, use the DFSA grades, use the trending WOBA tabs, start writing these, use your filters for these deeper value plays, and then just go sifting through, find some of these hot guys and go clicking through their game logs and see who's been bringing, 8 to 10 points consistently. And when you're paying higher, $4,000 and $5,000, see who's getting into those double digits at 15s and the 20s with upside to 40 and 50 points. And these become your short list of cash safe tournament type plays. Tournament plays meaning they can hit 2 and 3 home runs, but cash safe meaning they're not going to get you zeros. If you see a guy inconsistently getting you zeros here and there and everywhere, you don't want to use that guy in a cash type game. If you want more information on topics like these, you need to become a member. Suggest these topics. I'll do the best I can to put the video together that will help point you in the right direction and hopefully make you a better player. But you can only figure that out by joining DFSArmy.com using the coupon code in the bottom of the comment section there, CHOP, C-H-O-P. And I'm also going to throw this Hard 9 article down there in the description as well for you to read, because I think that a lot of people have benefit from reading this and learning what type of player they are, much less what type of player to look for. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. Hopefully you guys get a little bit out of this. Like and subscribe to the video, share me out on social media, and we will catch you guys in a couple of days. Happy 4th of July.